All right. Hey, everybody. We have Ben from Ben Camping Gear or Been Campin Gear, depending on what part of the country you're from, joining us from Colorado. Ben, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No doubt. So we're just going to ask Ben some questions about what he's making, where he is, what sort of recreation he's enjoying, and get to hear a little bit more about his company today.
Awesome. So I'll go ahead with the first question. We found you on Instagram. You really caught our eye, mostly because you're making lots of cool gear and really ultralight gear. But what has your sewing journey look like? When did you learn? And what was the first thing that you made?
Okay, so I've actually only been sewing for a little over 2 years, not very long. I learned to sew in late 2018. And it was actually my former boss, Linda, was I'm an accountant by day, and she was my boss in accounting, and she taught me how to sew just using my roommate's pretty not the nicest sewing machine. But yeah, the first things I made were very basic. I started with just some drawstring, stuff sacks. Really just trying to learn how to do some stitching and stuff. But the first real big project I made was a backpack actually for myself. And that's kind of what kind of got me into it was trying to make custom backpacks for myself and stuff. And then I just got more and more into it from there.
So take us one step further there. How did you get from working with your boss in terms of accounting, spreadsheets, numbers to like, hey, I'd really love to make a stuff sack or throw some stitches down? How did you get there?
So I had the idea. I'm just pretty particular with my gear, and I like Dyneema a lot. That Dyneema can a lot. There's a lot of stuff that I couldn't find out there that I wanted. So I decided I wanted to learn to sew. My old roommate had a sewing machine. So I just kind of asked around of people that could teach me because for some reason my roommate had a sewing machine, but didn't want to teach me. So my boss taught me, and it wasn't during the accounting day. I went over, but yeah, it just worked out. She's a good friend of mine and stuff. I don't know, it just kind of happened.
Yeah, that's really cool. As you mentioned, you're a full-time accountant by day. This isn't necessarily your full-time job to do this. For other people that are balancing this pull between having a hobby that they do make some money off, or they do want to put more time into, and having a full-time job, what sort of advice would you have for people that are trying to balance that?
Yeah. So first of all, I'd say it is very tough. I find myself pulled in a lot of different directions, and it is hard to keep up with everything. But advice I'd say is just got to make time for yourself, for fun, for socializing, for not just, you can't just spend all your time working and sewing or whatever your second job is, got to have some time to go out and hike and do the stuff that actually you want to be doing and stuff. So I struggled out with that for a little bit, especially during, COVID lockdowns and everything. I was really just like accounting and then sewing and and that was like my whole life for a while, but you really got to try and find the balance with it, and you really got to try and like plan your time well. Like I have certain projects that I want to get done on a certain day, and I want to I'm going to get these 5 items done, and then I'm going to go do something else and stop sewing because I can't spend my whole day in front of the sewing machine. So I'd really say like make time for yourself and really just plan your time and try and budget your time and not spend all your time doing the same thing over and over, or you'll go crazy.
I like that. Balance is it's such a tough word because it kind of promotes us doing less of what we like and more of what we don't like, but also what a time to learn, what a time to learn time management than extended COVID, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely. It's been a weird time, but it's good.
That's great. So we've seen a lot of your gear, obviously, and it seems that you have a specialty in ultralight dog gear. How did you end up in the dog gear area?
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting actually. I don't own a dog. Um, which you would think I would. I love dogs. I really like my accounting office back when I used to actually work in the office consistently is a dog friendly office. And it's like, was one of my favorite parts was all my coworkers have dogs and I'm always just playing with them. And then a lot of my hiking buddies would bring dogs with us on hikes too. So I'm always around dogs and I love dogs. And I just feel like, there's all this ultralight gear for people, but there's not that much ultralight gear for dogs, but dogs still need gear. And like, I live in Colorado and I'm hiking 14ers and stuff a lot. And I see dogs all the time, but it's like people have the bulkiest, I don't know, weird gear for their dogs, but then they have this super nice gear for themselves. And it's just seemed like there was a space for some better products there.
No doubt. I feel like that's a really good point. There's a big discrepancy in when you're carrying, oftentimes you end up carrying some of your dog's gear, right? Like even a dog pack can only carry so much. So if you're carrying ultralight and then you have unreasonably large leash or bull or whatever it is, that is weight you have to carry, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like people don't really think about it as much, but if you're hiking with your dog consistently, you got to think about that weight too. So I felt like there was just a kind of a little bit of a hole of, there's not that many products out there for it. And there's a lot of people that hike with their dogs. So I felt like there was a room for me to fit into that niche. I felt like.
Yeah, absolutely. That is kind of funny. Also, the dog community is normally pretty tight. People, they have their dog and that's what inspires them. So I do love how you just saw the dogs. You don't even have one, but you're like, no, we can definitely fit something for them. I like that. So you're based in Colorado. What part are you in?
So I'm in Summit County. I live in Keystone now. When I started the company, I was actually like closer to Breckenridge, but I've been here in the Summit County area for a little over 5 years now.
And is it as amazing as pretty much everybody makes it out to be?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I like it.
Why did you move to Colorado and you can't say the mountains? You have to give us another answer.
So actually I'm from Michigan originally. I'm from Ann Arbor. And I went to school, graduated from Western Michigan, in 2013. And immediately a few of my friends were moving out to the Tetons, to work in Grand Teton National Park. And I was kind of struggling to find a job, and they were planning this whole moving out to the Tetons in front of me the whole time. And eventually I just jumped on board and moved to the Tetons with them. And so right after I got my degree in finance, I was a dishwasher in the Tetons. But I pretty much
beautiful views though.
Oh my God. I mean, I lived right in the park. I was right on Jackson Lake. I mean, I love the Tetons. Such a great place.
Sounds amazing. That's high on my bucket list, the Tetons and Colorado, to be fair. That sounds pretty great.
Tetons are incredible, very, very scenic and photogenic, but it's also very expensive and very limited in job opportunities. So I lived there for a little while, but eventually it didn't work out. And a few of my friends were moving to Breckenridge and had a place with an extra room, and it was mountains, and I loved the mountains. Well, this isn't working, so might as well. And I kind of just liked Breckenridge and have stayed here. So I work in Breckenridge. I live in Keystone. I'm kind of around the whole county. I feel like it's kind of one community. So it's great. I love them being in the mountains, and I don't know. I guess you said I couldn't answer the mountains, and I kind of did, but
that's okay. We'll give you a pass on that one. You did say you were going because you had friends there too. Yeah. So I mean, we understand.
So what's your mountain sport of choice?
So I kind of do all the, I ski, I mountain bike, but really my top would be climbing mountains, peak bagging, I guess you could call it. I did a lot in the Tetons, and then the big one here, I guess, is the 14ers. I've been doing all the 14ers since I moved here, which is pretty fun. It's a little bit crowded and a little bit obnoxious sometimes, but I'm up to 50 out of 58, so I'm getting there. Hoping to finish this next summer, and so I guess that would be my top. I love long, backpacking and camping in general, but I guess my number one would probably be climbing a peak.
That is a huge accomplishment, though. And 50 out of 58, that is, that's often the lifetime achievement for a lot of people. Congratulations on making it that far.
Yeah, thank you. It's been fun.
Do you have a favorite peak so far that you've bagged that's just really stuck out?
Ooh, here in Colorado or in general?
In general.
Oh, man. I guess I would have to say in the Tetons, I did Mount Moran, which was really fun. It's like a overnight peak, and it's roped up and everything, and you have to canoe across a lake, and then like, what is it called? It's a carrier canoe. I can't remember what you call that. And then
like a ferry.
Yeah, like you carry your canoe and then go across another lake, and that's where you start. Just like in the middle of nowhere. So that was really fun. Did that with a few of my friends like 4 or 5 years ago. Also, I guess in Hawaii, I did Mauna Loa, which is the second high point of Hawaii. It's like a 45-mile hike, which was pretty awesome on just volcanic rock the whole time. And a couple little cabins are like the only way you could really camp, because it's like just jagged rock for 45 miles. So that was a pretty fun one.
Hey, Ben, I think you and I are going to stay in touch. Might have to come visit you post-COVID.
Sounds good. Always looking for more people to hike with.
So turning back to your making, you also are super into outdoor ink and colorful patterns. Do you have a favorite pattern, favorite colorway? Why do you choose the colorful things that you do?
Yeah, so in general, why I like outdoor ink is, I started with a Z-Packs backpack when I moved to the Tetons in 2013 or whatever. And you see the big companies, which make incredible gear, don't get me wrong, but it's all like, tan, gray, very boring colors. And it's like
the same 3 colors of Dyneema.
Exactly. And it's boring and not very fun. And when you guys came out with the Dyneema outdoor ink with Dyneema, that kind of changed it, because it was like, it doesn't have to be boring anymore. You can have ultralight gear that's fun and exciting, and so I've loved all that. But to answer your question about my favorite, I would say coloring book is my favorite. I've always been kind of into like comics and stuff growing up, and it kind of reminds me of that. So that one is fun. It's different. It's every piece I cut out is different, which is fun. It's all unique. And I guess my other one that I use a lot, which I really like, is the blue donut print, which everyone always tells me is, I have a wallet made out of it, and everyone's like, oh, nice Simpsons wallet. And I'm like, well, I guess, sure.
I can't disclose too much, but we're working on a new, let's call it an item with the coloring book. And we were talking with Justin, the guy who designed that. And he was surprised. He was like, have you guys found the tiger that's hidden in there? He's like, I threw a whole bunch of random stuff in there that a lot of people be like, wait, did you know that there's a Band-Aid somewhere in this pattern? But it's like, no matter where you cut it out, there's always something new in there.
Right. Yeah, it's super fun.
So speaking of making gear and all of that, every gear maker has like a go-to tool. Do you have a favorite tool of choice?
In general, I would say all my stuff is very, very old school. So I mentioned that I started on my old roommate's very basic, I think it was called like a Singer Simple or something like that. But after a little while, I moved to my own place, and my grandparents gave me their old Singer 201. And that's what I use, is a 1954, I believe. Singer 201 is my main sewing machine, my only sewing machine really. And so I guess I would say that's my favorite, is old school sewing machine. But like, these are my sewing scissors. They're also from my grandparents. They're probably 50 plus years old.
No way.
So like all my gear basically is mostly from my grandparents from the 50s or 60s. So I don't have super fancy gear or anything, but it's definitely made to last.
For sure. We get asked a lot all the time, like, what sewing machine do you recommend? And really, there's not a perfect answer. Like, you can sew a lot of things on just like a regular old sewing machine. And I know I've seen your pictures with your sewing machine, and I know that like people love seeing, like, it's kind of like a cult classic, right? People who see that have like a real affinity for those old sewing machines. And I'm sure it's just sentimental too, obviously, but it's just really badass that you're using something. You don't need a $2,000 Juki to do things all the time. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It really, my grandma loves it that I'm still using her sewing machine. And it's like, I think it's about the same age as my parents. And I mean, it's just incredible that it's still like it's way nicer than the modern Singer.
Yeah.
that I learned on.
What did your grandma say when you asked for a sewing machine?
Well, so they were moving into a retirement home around the same time I bought my condo here. So they gave me some chairs and art and, all sorts of random stuff. And my dad asked me, is there anything in particular you're looking for? And I was like, if there's a sewing machine, I know that era of sewing machine is incredible and I would love it. And it was like, out of all, I mean, they gave me a lot of awesome stuff, but it is by far the crown jewel of everything. It's like my favorite thing in my entire house. So I love it.
That's awesome. I love how it gets passed down. And I mean, it's like the corniest phrase ever, but truly they don't really make them like that anymore. Those things are tanks.
Yeah, it's very heavy. It's not very fun to move, but it's definitely built to last. It's all metal. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, no doubt. That's awesome. So dig more into the Dyneema for us. What did you first work with, and then when did you end up working with Dyneema, and how did you kind of realize this is really the stuff that I want to stick with?
Yeah, so I've been into Dyneema way before I started sewing. I actually stupidly bought the lightest weight, the 0.34 ounce per yard Dyneema, and tried to learn on that, and it's not very easy to sew at all. I still don't really like sewing it. It's very, very light and delicate.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make some really, really crazy light stuff. And so I started trying to learn on Dyneema and quickly decided that I was wasting a lot of money. So I bought some cheaper fabric to learn on. But I was pretty much all, I used some X-PAC and a few other fabrics here and there, but I've pretty much been all in on Dyneema since I learned to sew. Since way before I learned to sew even.
So we've been talking a lot about ultralight hiking this week. We talked with Nashville Pack just the other day, and they're going to be on our podcast this week. And one question we asked them that I think would fit you really well also is what came first for you? Was it hiking and peak bagging, and then you got into ultralight, or were you interested in finding kind of this mindset of ultralight gear and the ultralight mindset, and you applied that to hiking?
Yeah, so basically when I grew up in Michigan, I lived in Michigan until I was I was in Indiana for a couple of years, but mostly Michigan until 23. And that's when I moved to the Tetons. I wasn't really into hiking and stuff, so I was buying all my gear then, when I moved to the Tetons. And I wanted to kind of be light, but I was really just, trying to buy a gear. So I bought a Z-Pack backpack, but I also bought a lot of more traditional gear, which didn't really add up that well. It wasn't the greatest combination, but over the years I got more and more into it because I've always kind of had a bad back all the way. I played tennis growing up and just didn't do well with my back. So I always felt like if I had less weight, and also all my friends that I moved out there with were in way better shape than me. So I felt like if I had less weight, I could maybe keep up and could maybe go farther in general. So I guess basically as soon as I started hiking, I was a little bit into it, but I was kind of limited by, money because it is expensive to get into right away. So I kind of eased my way in. But I mean, I fell in love with that, with the Dyneema backpack right away. It was like the most incredible thing, even though my gear wasn't the best for it. That quickly changed. Well, eventually changed. I got lighter and lighter gear.
You kind of mentioned that cost is a barrier into getting that. Would you say that is the one main barrier of getting into ultralight is cost?
I'd say it's a pretty big barrier. I guess it depends on the person. I hike with most actually of the people I hike with to this day, carry a pretty traditional like Osprey or whatever, like pretty heavy pack and, pretty heavy sleeping bag and stuff. And I try and always tell them, but some people just kind of like their comfort, I guess, traditional gear. And I don't know, it just takes the right person. Some people are into it and some people aren't, I guess. And some people want to be really light and some people don't really care. And it is definitely an extra cost though. And it is typically a little bit less durable. I mean, depending on the item. So there's some downsides, definitely, but I think it just totally depends on the person and what they're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's a fair answer. I think definitely there are those people that are competitive about the miles that they put in, about the weight that they carry. They're the people who, like, when you walk up, they're like, how much weight you carrying? How many miles did you walk today? There are those people. And then there are people who are, they're just out there to have a good time. They don't want to sit on a rock. They're going to sit in your camp chair. And that's cool too. However, people want to adventure. I just, always encourage people to get outside. And I think a lot of people do think that it is cost, but there are ways to be more cost effective when it comes to making that ultralight gear. So thanks. That was a good answer.
What would you like to see happen next in Dyneema? What sort of patterns, colors? What's missing in our catalog right now, as far as you're concerned?
I mean, I love the Dyneema that there is, but there could definitely always be more prints. It's hard to say, like.
Dropped a bomb on you there. That was not a prep question.
I mean, I love all the prints in general, and like the more prints you have, the more I would buy and make products out of, because I mean, I make the same product 5 different ways, and some people, like the tree frog dry bag, and some people like the coloring book dry bag, and I think it's good to have that variety, and I personally find it fun as well for making my own gear. So
if you could add one like food item, like the donut Dyneema, what food item would you have printed?
Either maybe pizza, like slices of pizza, or bacon.
Yeah.
I think that's good, but I think if we do pizza, we need to have like it with the cheese melting off the sides, like the drippy cheese pizza. That's just my opinion. Kyle.
Yeah. All right. We'll get this one started. Ben, maybe we can get you we'll get you free stuff for the idea.
Yeah.
Like a deal. This is recording still, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Kyle.
No, pizza, donuts, that would be a great one. I don't know personally why we don't have it already, because I know Carter eats a lot of pizza.
That is what I'm eating tonight for dinner.
I even think like a coloring book, but without colors, like just like black and white version of it would be kind of fun too.
I totally agree.
It's not as colorful, but it'd be interesting, I think.
No, it would be really cool. It like I've always thought about the coloring book kind of like like a stained glass. So imagining that like on different, like if you just took a black outline with the color or with the Dyneema as the color, and you could kind of get like a monochromatic coloring, that would be cool. I totally agree. That'd be awesome.
But yeah, if you guys come up with more stuff, I'm definitely down. So let me know.
When you get more ideas, because I can tell that you've got them in the chamber, just shoot Avery a message. We'll see what we can do.
All right. Yeah, sounds good.
So if you could create a perfect trip, what would it be? Where would you go? And then who would you take with you? All
right. So I'm going to preface this by saying I felt like I did create a very perfect trip at one point, and it went not very well at all. But so my bucket list for a long time was going to Patagonia. And I did that in 2017. I went to Patagonia. I went to El Chalten in Argentina, and was there for my birthday and hanging out, mostly doing little day hikes. And then I went over to the border into Chile and did the O in Torres del Paine National Park, which is it's about 100 miles or so backpacking trip. Really incredible place, but it was pretty much cloudy and rainy the whole time, and I saw the mountains for like 2 days of the entire like 3-week trip. So just prefacing with perfect trip isn't always as perfect as it might seem. But the one I really have that I'm really thinking of, and is probably going to hopefully happen this year actually, is I mentioned the 14ers earlier, and I have 8 left. Pretty sure I'm going to finish this summer. So the one I really want to finish off with is it's this place called Chicago Basin down near Durango in Southwest Colorado. There's a train between Silverton and Durango, and that's the only way to get to the trailhead is you take this train, and then you get off in a random place called Needleton, and like middle of nowhere. and
Can I just say that all of this sounds like it's out of a child's book already?
Yeah.
It's like the names.
Take a train.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, I think. Then once you get off the train, you hike like I think it's like 15 or so miles into the camping area of Chicago Basin itself. From there, you're surrounded by all these big mountains, including 4 14ers, most of which are reasonably technical, like third, fourth class type stuff, which is like my favorite type of hike. Very scenic, really out in the middle of nowhere, since you have to take a train and backpack back there. Hopefully a lot less crowded than some of the other 14ers. And that's hopefully what I'm going to do to finish off this summer, is do that hike as my final 14ers. And ideally I'd love to go with my buddy Dylan, who lives here and who I lived in the Tetons with as well. That'd be awesome.
That sounds awesome. That sounds pretty fantastic.
Hopefully it all works out. I've been thinking I'm going to finish the 14ers like ever since I moved here. Originally I was like, I'm going to do these all in 1 year. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to finish the second year. And now I'm like this will be my 6th summer, and hopefully I'll finish this year.
That's okay. I mean, I think that's something that most people wouldn't even do in a lifetime. So just give yourself the props that you're doing it. That's awesome. And also we hope that you have good weather for your other trips. I mean, yeah, going all the way to Patagonia and only having like sunshine for 2 or 3 days is a bummer. So
it was still awesome. It was still a great trip, but definitely disappointing at times.
Yeah.
So at what point do you rope up for a big climb? Is it 4th class, 5th class? At what point are you like, okay, this is too technical, time to get some protection on there?
So 4th class I'm pretty cool with. In general, Tetons was a lot of 4th class, and there's some 4th class stuff here. I love doing the 4th class. It's like my favorite type of climbing, I'd say. Getting up into 5th class, I've done a few, like I did the Maroon Bells Traverse, free solo. That's like, low 5th, like probably 5.2 or so. And I also did the, Mount Wilson to El Diente Traverse, which is another 14er traverse, which is a similar level, like, low 5th class. So I, in general, have a pretty decent tolerance. I've done the Grand Teton, as that's like a 5.5 or so, and we roped up for that. I mean, I went with my buddy who grew up in Yellowstone and has done all of those Teton mountains a bunch of times, and I think he maybe put in like 2 kms the entire time. So we roped up.
You were like simul climbing, kind of, sort of.
We were simul climbing with like very little protection. In general, I mean, on the Grand, it was nice because we were then able to rappel. There was a really nice long rappel to avoid a lot of down climbing, which is nice. And then the one I mentioned earlier where we canoed across the lake, that's in the Tetons as well. That's about a 5.6 or 5, I think about 5.6. And we roped up for that. But I don't do a whole lot of rope stuff, really. I'll do some sport climbing here and there, but I don't have a lot of friends out here that do trad, unfortunately.
Yeah. So you're pretty comfortable in the vertical world, we could say, though.
Yeah, I'm all right with exposure for the most part.
That's awesome. Love that.
We're wondering if you had any gear nearby that you wanted to show off. Anything on your workbench?
Here is the dry bag I'm making, but it's only halfway done.
That's okay. Oh, I love that. It's like candy frogs.
Yeah, I like the frogs. It's a fun one. And like with this is, 1.0 ounce Dyneema. So it's like, you can kind of even see through it, which is pretty fun for a dry bag, be able to see your gear. But otherwise, I don't know anything that's all that made. I mean, I have some squares that will be dog bowls in a little pile. Here's Topo, blue. Yeah.
Nice.
Blue, there goes my computer screen. Blue 1.43 ounce. So nothing that exciting. I've just made a lot of new products recently, new sizes of dry bags, and I've just been getting a lot of new fabric and stuff, but nothing really prepared.
No, that's okay. We all love to see what you've been working on, and it's fun to see just kind of what's going on in your world. So thanks for showing that off.
Yeah, definitely.
If people
dry bags tonight.
Yeah. If people want to buy something, how can they find you online?
So I have a website, which I started probably 2 or 3 months ago, which is bencampin.com, BenCampin.com. And I also have an Etsy store, which is Ben Campin. If you just search Etsy for Ben Campin, you should find it. Pretty much the same stuff. A little bit more on my website itself. So a little bit more variety there. And then I also have a few things that are sold through Garage Grown Gear. They stock my dog bowls, so you can find their stuff there as well.
Cool. Ben, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been super awesome to talk to you, and I think everybody else will appreciate your maker story. We like to do these maker spotlights to, in a lot of ways, the way that I like to see it is that we don't sell the finished product, but you guys bring it to life, right? So we are able to get it to you guys, and you really do the fun stuff. So we're really excited to talk to you. Thanks for spending some time with us and sharing your story with the people that want to see your gear.
Awesome. Yeah. Appreciate having you talk with you. And I love all your gear. Hope you actually do make some more outdoor ink.
As much as Avery and I have the ability to, we'll push that as far as we can.
Sounds good.
Yes. Thank you again so much. And like always, we love to see what you're up to and what you're creating. So thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Have a good night.
Awesome.
Thanks. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.